organization that is going to enhance or complement or strengthen your potential weakness. And so again, focusing on getting a deep understanding. The deeper you go, the higher you rise.
Deepening the client relationship is really ultimately about generating revenue. And is it really just a feel-good thing, or does it actually have an impact in being successful?
Focusing on long-term, deep relationships. Again, deepen the relationship, elevate the client experience.
Really listen to what Jeremy just said, because it's not about mimicking what someone else is doing. It's having that mindset and finding your approach.
No one can be or should be a better version of yourself. Similarly, you can't be a better version of somebody else. And so mimicking somebody is not going to achieve the success that you are striving for. Leaning into your authentic self and living on what grounds you and your principles is going to be key. When I view scaling an organization, it's grounded in being consistent, doing it quicker, and having a larger impact over the client relationships that you have.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Pierag Cast. Today we'll be centering on the topic of expanding into new markets, which sounds very exciting, but sustaining growth across geographies takes a lot of discipline. Joining us today is Jeremy Enuson, Managing Director at Stout and Midwest Regional Leader for Accounting and Reporting Advisory. Jeremy has spent his career advising organizations through complex financial reporting challenges and integration scenarios. With experience across leading global firms, he brings a perspective that blends technical depth with strategic clarity. What makes Jeremy's journey interesting is not just the roles he's held, but the way he approaches leadership. He's spoken often about the importance of building genuine relationships and understanding people, especially when working across markets and cultures. In this conversation, we'll explore what it truly means to scale strategically across geographies, as well as how leaders can expand without losing coherence, quality, or control. Jeremy, welcome to the Pierag Cast. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very excited to dive into this conversation. Jeremy, we've had a number of conversations and a couple of really interesting perspectives that we've shared. And I've always found your leadership approach to be quite inspiring and motivating, but also unique. So I'm really excited to get your perspectives on those.
I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Okay, so let's get started. Before entering a new geography, right, before you kind of start that new connection, new relationship, what are the most important questions that you would suggest leadership should ask themselves?
The first question, I think, is how does this align to our core strategy? And have we defined that core strategy? And then a follow-up question would be, how does this impact, or more importantly, enhance the client experience?
That is really a bird's eye view approach, right? That speaks to the strategy of what's being accomplished.
Correct. A lot of times organizations are sometimes executing somebody else's strategy and not specifically identifying or aligning with what are the key principles or tenets of our organization, and how does this action that we are taking align with those core principles. And so if you haven't done that, what you'll find happening is creating confusion in terms of how you execute the specific steps. And so starting with a bird's eye view and having a clear understanding of how the specific action traces back and aligns with your core strategy or principles is going to be key in ensuring that you maintain clarity throughout the entirety of the process.
Makes perfect sense. And it sounds a bit like self-reflection before just moving into something. I have found in my experience that it is very tempting to fall into the trap of checking the box. We need to do a thing. But digging deeper, it's why are we doing it? Does it make sense? And how do we align our actions, really, is what you're saying.
What is it that we are trying to accomplish? Before you can then define how, when, how quickly, and so forth. And so I think it's critical.
It makes a lot of sense. Firms today, in general, across industries, are growing, and they're growing across borders. What's your perspective on how they can protect quality and service consistency while still adapting to this type of expansion?
One of the second questions that I asked was around how this impacts or enhances the client experience. One of the core tenets that I have is centering our actions around the client experience. And so, as you are thinking about service quality, first and foremost, if you're focused on enhancing the client experience, you center yourself on that, and how you execute the actions to accomplish that shouldn't change what your ultimate goal is. It's just a different way of doing it, or with different individuals. And so if you, again, stay grounded in how does this enhance the client experience, the expectation is that you are not diluting the client experience as a function of different actions you're taking, and therefore a concern around the quality. You're going to maintain a certain level or only increase it. You're not going to do something that's going to diminish that and there be a quality issue. Because at the end of the day, you want to ensure that this is a seamless experience for the client. It's enhancing that. And you're just taking nuanced calculations, things like cultural sensitivity or what the impacts are or nuances in that environment or who you're working with. But to me, again, it's centering on the client, the experience, and then ensuring that everything you do enhances, not diminishes. And so quality is a key component of that, because regardless of who is doing the execution, that quality should not be impacted, diminished, or diluted.
It's a very powerful statement that you just made, and part of what I find very unique about that is your use of the word client experience. Tell us more about that. What does that mean to you?
I mean, it ultimately is centering in that we, for the most part, we say that we are in client service. The operative word is the client. And oftentimes, if we move our eyes off of who we are doing this for or who we are doing this on behalf of, we may lose sight of, again, that North Star, that focus. And so, again, if you're focusing on the client, how is this enhancing their experience with you? We'll get to other points on, people working with people they know, like, and trust, and this experience you create around service. We are in service to that client or our colleagues. Again, continuing to focus on that helps in pointing you in the right direction to ensure that you're not straying, or how you are accomplishing the goals or achieving the goals, rather, is not lost.
It's fantastic. It's great advice as well for really anyone, whether they're in a directly client-facing situation or perhaps in an operational role, the internal
Everybody's a client.
Everyone is a client.
Everyone is your client. And again, if you're operating with I am here to serve or support you, you are my client, and my action is ensuring that what I do is in fact in service to you and providing you the support that you need.
Is this something that you developed over time, this approach?
I think I started to pay closer and closer attention to my mindset and how I would approach my day-to-day. If, again, my focus is simply on generating revenue, it's very transactional. If I'm focused on adding value or enhancing, that opens my aperture to different ways that in everything I do, I am helping to enhance that experience. And I found that as I've shifted that focus and then also aligned and continued to maintain that focus, it has deepened the client relationships that I've had, and it's continued to expand both internal and external relationships.
Makes sense, and it sounds like you continue to practice that philosophy, and it seems hone in on what works and what doesn't. I also find it fascinating the initial example that you had given around, what would you say to perhaps those dissenters that would say, no, 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 that doesn't matter. Deepening the client relationship is really ultimately about generating revenue. And is it really just a feel-good thing, or does it actually have an impact in being successful?
The way that I approach things, or one of the things that I respect, is authenticity. And the key part of authenticity is being genuine and being in, again, the concept of in service. If I am in service to you or on your behalf, I am doing what I can to ensure that you achieve the success that is important to you. That is not transactional. Yes, there is a byproduct of that, in that, yes, we are in a revenue generating business, but there's mutual benefit if we are respectively in service to each other. And so that focus on being authentic and not merely doing things, saying things, or governing yourself in a way that's rooted in revenue as opposed to grounded in service. You may have short-term success, but again, if I'm focusing on long-term, deep relationships, again, deepen the relationship, elevate the client experience. What you accomplish or achieve is going to far outpace any short-term revenue benefit by operating with a transactional mindset.
Makes perfect sense. It makes a lot of sense. And when you think about those leaders who have truly been successful, I'd venture to say they all take that type of approach, perhaps in their own way, right? But, customizing that to, use your word, be genuine and authentic to who they are.
And I appreciate that you made the point that it's in your own way. And so who you are as a person should shine through. In the conversations that we've had in the past couple of days, that passion, that core grounding principle comes through in a way where it excites you and creates an environment that folks want to be in that orbit. Even clients, even the individuals that you're working on behalf of. And so leaning into that authenticity, I think, is phenomenal, because it allows you to be you and in service of others. That I think is a phenomenal experience once you step back and actually appreciate what you are accomplishing.
This is a great point, and I've said it a number of times, this is great advice, which it is, but I would say we might have some viewers, some listeners that are in agreement, but struggling to figure that out, how to do that. So what I would say is really listen to what Jeremy just said, because it's not about mimicking what someone else is doing. It's having that mindset and finding your approach, what makes you feel comfortable, what's a genuine question that you would ask, or building a relationship with a common interest, whatever draws you out.
No one can be or should be a better version of yourself. Similarly, you can't be a better version of somebody else. And so mimicking somebody is not going to achieve the success that you are striving for. Leaning into your authentic self and living on what grounds you and your principles is going to be key.
Fair, and a very good point. Shifting a bit, from your perspective, we talk a lot about scaling, global scale. What does that mean to you?
Consistency over speed. The key element of that, I think, is consistency. When we talk about scaling an organization, it's in the context of growth. And oftentimes there may be a view of, okay, do I need to do this to accelerate that growth? But to your earlier question around service quality and maintaining that, you're doing something consistently, you're doing it at speed, and compounding the effect to where you have a bigger impact. And so when I view scaling an organization, it's grounded in being consistent, doing it quicker, and having a larger impact over the client relationships that you have.
First of all, it's the right perspective. But the other point is it's disrupted by, there's so many things that are happening in the world, right? That might shake that up a bit in what you just described, not the least of which is AI, right? And so there's a lot of chatter about that. There's strong proponents. There's some, I would venture to say, fear. I've heard you say that AI is an accelerator, or that your view is that AI is an accelerator. What does that mean?
So there's a book that I've been reading recently called The AI-Driven Leader, and it's actually shifted my perspective, or put in better perspective, how I think about and approach AI. There needs to be a demystification of AI in that folks view it as a threat, as opposed to the book's concept is viewing AI like a thought partner. And so it is enhancing how you do the things you do. It is a partner in that you are the thought leader. It is a thought partner. And so the view of enhancing what you do, or complementing rather what you do, I think is critical. And so shifting, again, the concept of mindset to appreciate that AI is not a threat, but it can enhance what you do and how you do it, and the speed at which you do it, again, puts things into perspective and context.
And the book was called?
The AI-Driven Leader.
I'd encourage folks to check that out. Shifting gears again, as we think about your very strong relationship, not just with your clients, but your drive to do the work that you do, part of that has been supported by the Pierag team, and it kind of integrating that into the fabric of the work that's done, certainly by your team. How can a strategic partner in that way help leadership teams move from kind of that ambition-driven expansion to more disciplined and actual scalable growth? Where does that fit into the picture?
And so I appreciate the question, and that if you think back to the commentary around an AI or AI, the conversation we were just having, and the thought of enhancing, being a thought partner, and it being complementary to you, I view a partnership or a strategic partnership as complementary. And if you think about any partnership, whether it's an organizational, a marriage, you hopefully are aligning yourself with an individual that complements you, and the power of that complementary combo, if you will, creates a force that on a standalone basis you could not achieve. And so a strategic partner that aligns with your core values, complements you, and enhances your collective skills, the power of how you, for lack of a better word, go to market and approach clients, and again, couple, if you will, enhancing a client experience, you're doing twice as much, if not more, than you can do alone. And so the right strategic partner can help accelerate or scale those efforts, assuming you are, again, complementary to each other. You're bringing strengths, you're enhancing weaknesses as a function of that combination.
You said something that was very important in that, which is the values should be aligned. And I can't emphasize enough how important that is as you're thinking about partnering, as Jeremy said, in any part of your life, but certainly, of course, in a business perspective. If your values are aligned, everything else seems to come with it, right? So the service, the teamwork, the communication, it's interesting. But again, we have some listeners, some viewers who might be in that position where they're evaluating that. They're looking for partners. And that's a really great piece of advice, right? What is the firm like?
What do they represent? Yeah. What are their short-term and long-term goals? Honing in on those core principles if you're not in alignment, you are not going to, for lack of a better word or term, row in the same direction. If one person is rowing one forward, another person is rowing backward, you're going to be spinning around and not achieving the success that you both desire. And so when you are in fact aligned, then the collective attention is focused on how do we achieve what we want to achieve quicker, better, with more impact.
What a great analogy, by the way. It's sometimes you get a visual that way and it clicks. So what I'm hearing you say is put the effort into understanding one another, and it's critically important.
One of the points that I made earlier was deepening the relationship.
Yes.
And really getting to understand their motivations, what excites them, what drives them, what is an area of that organization that is going to enhance or complement or strengthen your potential weakness. And so again, focusing on getting a deep understanding. The deeper you go, the higher you rise, which sounds a little odd, but again, in deepening the relationship and getting a clearer understanding of the person that you are going to work with or work side by side with is key.
That's, again, really, really good advice. I'd like to wrap up with one last thought, one last question. I would say this links to your general, as you say, mindset and approach. You said something recently that really, really stuck with me, which was all actions make sense with enough information. And it just...
You were listening.
I was listening, and it really made me pause and think, right? Because I think, especially in a work context, we're busy, we're running around, we're trying to get our stuff done, and it's very easy to have something occur and to have immediate knee-jerk reaction to that. And I heard you say that, and I thought that really speaks volumes, not just about your mindset, but really taught me, to your point, there is something that made that happen. And not knowing what it is detrimental.
Yeah, and so again, if you just go based off of your initial reaction without the appropriate context, all actions, I assume, are driven with or in view of a certain context. And so you may be reacting to something that's a function of something else that happened, something else that you heard. And if the other person is only seeing your reaction without the context, then they are limited in their understanding of why that might have happened. And so sometimes pausing to get that additional information, ask better questions in the spirit of understanding, that will help.
Makes a lot of sense, and quite frankly, just a very powerful and really profound statement that probably, it's one of those things, not sure who needs to hear this, but you need to hear this. So, Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you taking the time to dive in and share some great advice and perspectives. Thank you for joining the Pierag Cast.
Thank you for having me.